when you get on and you ride on the buckle, right? The same sort of thing, just kind of like getting to know the horse. But I can feel a little bit of tension in him now, so I just want to kind of see if he'll breathe it out. Like, can you guys all feel it? Like he's got like a little bit of like, he's almost expecting me to ask him to do something, so I'm just gonna kind of be with him.
Do you need a longer rope?
No, I'm okay. This is actually perfect for what you want to do anyway. We're just kind of hybriding it a little bit since we put this saddle on. We'll let him go around one more time.
She liked the idea of the rope.
This is a great idea. It's so much
$7
lighter.
versus 75.
So much lighter. Smart woman. We'll start a new trend.
I would never tie him with it.
You think he'd get away?
I think it might not be strong enough.
Oh.
It's just polyester. It's all polyester. I'm so surprised he hasn't cut up about that saddle.
Oh, it's coming.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
When he starts moving faster.
It's coming. Like you can almost kind of feel like he's got like a little bit, he's got anxiety in there. So that's why, for me, I want to make sure that he knows.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no. I think that there's just a different style now. Like, like that. I think it's a little bit old to be thinking, ride them through it or, like create the buck so that they're feeling better. Like, I think we'll see. I think it's definitely in there, right? You can see like he feels a little bit claustrophobic about it. But I would like to approach this with a more compassionate way of both of us like kind of discussing it and seeing like where he's feeling claustrophobic. I find that a lot of times if you have something that's cold back, that well, I didn't do it, the dog did. It wasn't me. The clover leaf takes a lot, like fixes a lot of that stuff. He does have anxiety in there, doesn't he? He's a smart horse, and we don't know why he feels claustrophobic. I know what I feel like when I've worn sweatpants for a while and put some jeans on the first time.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I imagine, it's a little bit of the same. And the cold-backed horse, like we have to kind of figure out, is it a claustrophobic thing, or lots of times cold back can just be a little bit of that muscle, I forgot its name, but that muscle that's there, it's almost like a little bit like a knee-jerk reaction. And people will say, well, if I ride the horse every day, it goes away. And I'm like, well, you're desensitizing that muscle, but it may be just something that that horse always is going to have for a little bit. Where are we going?
He sure is thinking about it hard.
Super thinking about it.
Yeah.
But you know, like I want him to start thinking, right? Like I want him to start to kind of figure out where he's going to be, how he can get out of the situation. Because if he usually explodes a little bit. Is that what he normally does? Yeah. Every time?
What's that?
Every time?
What, every time?
Yeah. Like every time does he explode when he put the saddle on?
No.
Just after,
It's usually
like,
something that sets him off. Another horse acting up, or I don't know. Usually it's another horse acting up.
okay. And
He's pretty steady besides that.
but he's usually not hold back as far as like he's usually like, or is his thing is always to kind of buck. Is that what he's gonna do?
In recent history, he's reared more than buck, but bucking is his response normally.
Oh, hello. Oh, oh my gosh. Whoa. We have a whip.
Yeah.
So we're gonna problem solve a little bit. I'm gonna see, because we all can kind of see it. It's when it bunches up right there, right? Like when it takes a deep breath, right? So we're gonna see.
That's usually my signal when he's going to cut up.
When he takes a breath.
He does this.
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, for sure. But it's right. So I want to make sure that we can have a tried and true thing between the three of us. That it's okay. You're okay. You're okay. That I want to kind of find where that place is, and that we all can have an agreement that we're going to help him through it, right? Because I think what happens is even when you've been riding for a little bit of time, and then, good boy, bravo,
Where's the treats?
smart boy.
Where's
Where's
the
my
treat?
cookie?
There's supposed to be treats there.
I think like, even if you've been riding for a little bit of time, and you know he relatively feels okay about it, but then something excites him, and then he feels that, right? He hasn't really accepted that saddle. That's okay. You're all right. You're okay. No, I'm not ready. Oh, come, come, come. That's okay. So what it seems like right now, anyway,
Good stuff.
I hope you. Okay. What he hasn't figured out is that he can breathe through it, right? So he doesn't have much. It's when he takes a deep breath there, right? So, but if we go one step back, why can't he breathe? He can't breathe because he can't move his rib cage. So the first thing that we need to do is find a way that we can you gotta unstick yourself, kid. Not me. Oh no. There we go. So we're gonna find a way. Because to me, I think it's right here in that rib cage. So we're gonna find, because if you can kind of see the way that his whole body is in like one position, right? So that doesn't lend itself to be very helpful. Yeah, figuring out. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. That's why we're doing it. You're okay. Yeah, you're okay.
You want me to move that mountain block out of there?
So like right now, right? Like I just want to find a place in his body that he can find a release, right? So to me, when they're claustrophobic in anything, we can go, to me it's like taking the lid off of a pot that's about to boil over instead of turning the heat off, right? So turning the heat off would be taking it away, right? Getting off, taking the saddle off. That would be taking the heat away. But I know, breathe, my love. But instead, we're going to try and find a place that he can relieve that pressure. So is it moving the neck? Is it moving the shoulder? Is it moving the hind leg? We have to find out. Because then once he can, good boy. Yeah. Once we can figure out where that place is that he accepts, then we can go back. Yeah. He's going to want to be there because he doesn't want to be claustrophobic either. Bravo. So I don't know if you all saw it or not, but when I put the pressure right here, and I was like explaining to you guys, I think it's, my intuition tells me that's where it is. And we can get his neck. Bravo. Yeah, see now I can get his neck a little bit. There, there, there. Bravo. Bravo. Yes, you're so smart. Come. Come. You're all right. You're okay. It's all right. Oh my gosh, we're not ready. Oh. So the first thing I did was the clover leaf, but he's not ready for that, right? He has a lot more trust issues than being able to, he's not going to be able to compartmentalize. So, multitask. So we need to compartmentalize. So I'm going to go on everything on the right side until I feel like he can solve it a little bit, and then I chose the right. But this would be the equivalent of realizing that your horse today can't handle inside leg, outside rein, because that's a little bit complex. So then you go back to inside leg, inside rein. I'm not going to match my steps yet. he's not ready for me to ride him. He's a little bit uncomfortable with that. Yeah. So we're just gonna kind of keep seeing. Yeah, Kava. Good boy. But you know, it's like one of those things where I feel like Sarah and I just went to therapy together. He's telling me about something that's very scary and something he doesn't quite understand. And I'm with him, not pointing my finger, but I'm like, well, let's talk about it and let's solve it. Where do you think you could feel better? So, you know, like, funny enough that I posted that thing this morning, right? Because, you know, in the old saying, like, you know, people were like, well, move their feet, you have to disengage their hind leg. But that's not where his anxiety is. His anxiety is in the front. His anxiety is right here. And he was telling you by rearing, right, because he gets stuck. Right, so we always have to go back to like our six non-negotiables, right? So here he's good boy. Now I want a little bit more because now he's figured out that he can breathe, but we still can't turn. And what I'm looking for, Sandy, is the release. I'm looking for a sneeze. I'm looking for licking and chewing. I'm looking for a big breath, a snort, something. Because now he's like, oh gosh, thank God I can trot. I'm feeling good, but we all know we wouldn't sit on this, right? So like,
Probably not so much.
Right. But again, I'm still going right for that shoulder. Okay, so what's going to happen is the hind leg, might come to the outside, but I want you guys to pay attention that it's here. I'm trying to break him up into some pieces. There, I got a little bit of a breath. Oh, super. I personally want to stay close to the ground, so my steps are with him, concentrated. You guys can start to see now I'm carving out a little piece in that neck. I know, oh, it's for them, not you, I'm sorry. And breathe, but now I'm telling him, no, you got to do it just in the trot, and he's trying to figure out how he can breathe and release. And this is the place that this is why you do everything on the ground, so that you can be completely supportive, but not in quote-unquote danger. Right? Right, but this is that place, especially with a horse like this, that I was giving him the answer. And he was not, oh, there we go. right? He was like, I don't know if I want your help. So then I went a little bit too far. I was helping you guys figure it out. And then the pressure was a little bit too much. So we went back to neutral until he asked me, hey, can you help me feel better? Asked for a little bit more, and he got a little bit straight in the connection. You guys can see it. So I'm going to put a little more pressure just here. Oh, super! Good boy! Oh my gosh, it's on your butt! Ah! Oh man! Good job, big boy! Because all rearing is standing still on 2 feet. Yeah, I know it scares all of us. Nobody likes that feeling. We like all 4 feet on the ground. But that's all it is. So, if we know that rearing is just standing on 2 feet, standing still, yeah, and he has to, yeah, we have to just help him find the relief in the walk or relief in the breathing. So like that's that, place where you say, okay, move their feet, but you can only move their feet when they're ready, right? And he'll tell you, like I'm huge on paying attention to where they sweat, because that will tell you exactly where they're holding tension or where they're working the most. And right, we're looking, and I think everybody can see like that shoulder. Does everybody see the sweat on the right shoulder? Little bit in the abs, right? But you can tell it's like in that shoulder. So then we're like, all right, but he's right. We gave him some time. Still, we want him to breathe out. I'm going to increase the energy, increase the quote-unquote pressure. We can see that's a little bit nerve-wracking for him. But what's fun is that he's found the outside range, because now he wants to go away from it. Oh, bruh. Why not? Huh? Good boy. Oh, bravo! Super! There we go. Good job. That's it. Come. So now, right? I'm just increasing the pressure. I just want to show him that he can have a little bit more room. He can figure out a way that he can feel safe in it. So as soon as we go up a little bit here, he gets a little nervous, we'll bring it back down. Up. And we're like, oh, nervous. Yes, yes. I know. I hate this. Oh my gosh. We have to keep going. But this is fine. All of this stuff is information for me. I chose the right side because the right side's a little bit harder for him, and I know him a little bit. Right? But you can see he's ready to release, But in his mind, he's like, lady, I can only release if I go to the left. And I'm like, no problem. Good boy. We're all supporting him now. Oh my gosh, we're gonna talk about how naughty you are. Oh, no one cares. Yeah! Hello! Whoa! Hi! To me, and this is just my opinion, but to me, we are watching the horse desperately trying to release himself, and all he had to do when he bucked, he wasn't bucking at me, he wasn't bucking the saddle off, he was unsticking his leg. But then he came to me with all this drama about how naughty he's being, and I'm like, says who? What he wants to do, right? He's like, okay, I'm gonna try and find where I can release myself. And it's, nope, we're gonna be friends. We're gonna walk on the buckle, and we're gonna be friends. And that's that place where I think he is missing a piece in his education, that he can relax and he can let go of all the trauma. Right, that's what we say. Horse needs to take a joke. But I want him to know that, like, I'm with him and we're doing this together. But I want him to find that he can have that place in the walk, right? Because I think you say it's when horses come up behind him, which I agree with you. But, like, the real issue is that he's never really relaxed and accepted, right, that this is happening right now. So then when you add too much pressure to it is when he explodes. And he's like, yeah, good boy. He feels you clamp up, you don't want him to explode. But he doesn't know what to do with all that energy, so he stands up. It has to go somewhere. Wow, so smart. So smart. Good job. Look at us going. Oh, we're going. Wow, we're really going. Wow, you so smart. Yeah. He wanted to get a little bit, thank you. He wanted to get a little bit faster than I wanted to go. So I made it my idea and thought, oh, yay, we get to canter. And then I backed off. You're going to ride that scale all the time. Well done. Well done. Bravo. Yeah, you want to. Yeah, you got to teach him how to breathe. He forgot. That's all it is, Sandy. He forgot how to breathe. So, it's no different than the rider that you see. I mean, gosh, I bet you can tell me how many times we were like, oh my gosh, I didn't breathe through that entire test. Right? Well, that's all he did. All he was like, I'm not breathing, oh my God. And then the body starts panicking because we're not breathing. And so all we did is go back and be like, no, remember, you can breathe. Good boy. And we're gonna see if it's there, if I can ride the scale. right? Because we want to make sure. Uh-oh. Good boy. So it's still there, right? Good boy. So what you're going to do is not canter, right? Because we're trying to teach him that he can breathe through it. So we're going to get him in this place where he's like, okay, no pressure. We're just trotting easy together. Oh, we're working our abs. We're going to make that saddle fit. Yeah. Yeah. Good. But you see, now he's paying attention to my energy. Right? He's like, well, she doesn't look like she's looking. Good boy. So he didn't release. So we're going to go down. And we're going to wait for it. And so, right, so today we have to look at his fitness. Today we have to look at the whole story. So today I would say, well, we're not ready for the canter yet. No big deal.
Not ready for the what?
The canter yet, right? Like we couldn't ride it.
Right.
Because that canter, he still has anxiety. But we also have to look at his fitness and the amount of time and all that stuff, right? Because that's the other thing, is that people get so focused on, well, I need to have these in order to ride, that the horse will finally give it to them out of pure exhaustion. They don't learn anything, right? So like now today we say to ourselves, all right, well, he's not really ready for that, but I can still work towards it, so I'll show you how I'm going to work towards it. So we're going to pick it up a little bit, and we're going to try. Oh my gosh, I'm done. Because everybody knows, no matter what sport you do, transitions are life. Yep. You want to go trot trot? And then already no. Never mind. And we know this is hard for him. Why? Because he hasn't released all of those things in his head yet. So I'm still working on the canter. And as soon as he comes up, we're going down. Yep. And he'll get that downward transition when he finally breathes. This is what happens on your trail ride, right? Because we're all like watching him. He still hadn't let go of it. He's still thinking about what happened a few minutes ago. And so you and I have gotten over it, and we're like, dude, it's over. Like, we're not even going to do that anymore, but it's not in his mind. So when you're on the trail ride, even though he feels rather relaxed right here, he's still thinking about it. So then if yes, thank you. Thank you. It took that long for him to finally come down and release it himself. And so like that's what happens. So then all of a sudden somebody will say it comes out of nowhere. But really it's all this time, that little tiny piece that I asked, and he was a little bit claustrophobic in that saddle, all that time he was holding on to it. So I am working on that canter. I'm just working in a place that makes sense to him. So you see, like, that was really hard to kind of trot trot 3 strides and then come back down. Trot trot 3 strides and then come down. But that's because he has to hold his abs. which still puts pressure in a place that makes him feel claustrophobic. Good boy. Okay. Good job. Oh, thank you. Wow. You're gonna offer me something hard? I didn't even want it. Yeah, you was going to though? The other misconception is that everybody wants to do stuff evenly, right? So the other problem with that thinking is you're not dealing with the individual. So I don't care that we just went to the right. Doesn't make any difference to me. To me, he never really accepted it. He never really, right? I want him to go back into the field and be like, okay, so I learned something today. When I panic, if I drop that inside or outside shoulder, it's amazing. I feel so much better. Good boy. Much better. Yeah. Go. Weird one. Weird one. Wow, good job. So even there, I don't know if you caught it or not, but he gave me more energy than I wanted. And I immediately took my foot off the gas and was like, no, never mind. And he licked and chewed. Right? So like that's how you start to just work on the feeling of pressure, no pressure, pressure, no pressure. Much better, kid. But like, we don't know what it feels like to be him, right? So we have to go back and explain to him that this isn't claustrophobic, that you can get out of these situations. We just need to teach him a tried and true way that he goes, I feel claustrophobic, and then you can go, like I always like to drop an outside rein just because like most people like have a death grip on it. So the horse is always like, whoa, and like you can catch their brain. But like we'll have to find wherever it is for him that you can like let off steam, and then he goes, oh, okay, that's great. And then we keep doing it here before we introduce you, so that he had to work on this. We were compassionate, we were his friend, we were his partner, we were holding his hand through all of his anxiety. Yeah. But he has to do that. We can't do that for him, right? I mean, I don't know if you know anybody that has anxiety, but like when that comes up, oh, well, so do I, right? So you know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Nobody can console you. Nobody can tell you anything in the moment. When it's happening, you're having a physical reaction to something, right? So like, and what's terrible about anxiety for humans is that like, then in your mind, you're like, I have nothing to be scared of, right? And then the body's like, yeah, you do. And then you're like, this is incredible. Like, this is stop. Like, this is insane. And the body's like, too late. That's all that happened to him. So we have to come at him the same way, right? So you have anxiety. So like when you're in the middle of it, the best thing that you can do is have somebody like sit next to you and like, let's do something very simple like breathe, right? You do the box breathing. I don't know whatever you do. But if you can take it to him and we can help him figure out his anxiety, then you guys riding him is going to be fine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But like, there's no way that you could convince my body, if it's in a state of anxiety, that it's safe. I have to do it. And that to me is the key to him, is that, you know, he came in here before we were playing and he's like, I know, and he wants to take that because he really doesn't want to talk about this, like this, right? Like he like, don't trigger me, lady. And I'm like, that's an anxious place to live. Like if right, like if we didn't want to be triggered, like do we be hermits? We would have like this little box of places that we could handle. but we have to go to the store. And we have to be in these situations that put us in a place, you know, like we're constantly working on it. That's all we did with him today. Today was just therapy. And so for me, if we come at it, we came at him very emotional today. And so that to me takes training out of it. So I tell people, like, before you label a horse, a riding horse, working equitation, dressage, jumping, eventing, I don't care. We label everything. Before you do that, you have to ask him, like, are you like broke to ride? Like, do you remember your 6 non-negotiables? And today he's like, I forgot. But what I try and tell people is, like, I mean, I have FEI horses, like very, very seasoned FEI horses. Every single day, I get on them and I'm like, did you remember? Because I can't take anything for granted. If I took it for granted, then I'm a dictator. Then I'm no longer a partner. How are you feeling today? Oh, you forgot about that, right, Ray? Dang. Right? So then I go to, okay, these are the parameters in which I need to feel safe. This is what's going to make you a good riding horse. So we work on those, and then you label. Then you're like, oh, now I have a dressage horse working a quotation horse. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But like always, so that's why I'm saying I wouldn't go the other way, because this isn't a riding horse yet. Like he's working on his 6 non-negotiables, which is 2 seat bones, 2 legs, 2 reins. We both, well, we all, all of us, him too, agrees that sitting on him today, not such a good idea. Right? So we say to him, like, okay, let me help you be a good riding horse before you go off and get to do obstacles and all, or trail rides or anything like that. And then he's like, okay, thank you. So like today was emotional. So that's why I chose the right side, because we had a little bit of a discussion out there. And so like, I always like to kind of, I like to get most bang for my buck. So like, I know he's the most comfortable on the left, and I've had a relationship with him. And so I thought that it would be a good opportunity to show him that I already know about it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, I literally chose the right because I was like, I know you have anxiety on this side. It's okay. I know about it. So like now he's like, you do? And you're like, yeah. It's no different than somebody being like, I have smelly feet. And you've been like holding it in forever, and the person's like, dude, I totally know. Right? Like, I just didn't say anything. Right? And the relief that you get from being seen, being heard, right? And works as it, and getting gotten. Like that relief, that feeling of being like, wow, and you still want to hang out with me with stinky feet? That's right. And you're like, well, maybe we can go to the store. But like, that's all we did today. This is so fixable. In my opinion, it just, there was just steps skipped for him. He's a good guy, and he's pretty much of an, like, you know, internalizer. So to me, what happened in the skip step is somewhere along the line, somebody took it for granted that he had learned the lesson, and he didn't. And so now we have to go back and discuss. When I was 2, some horse called me fat, you know, like, we have to go back and find all of those little places in him and like let him explore those things until they're all gone. And then you have no riding issues. Because he really is a good horse. Like he's very body aware, and he knows. And so why I know he's a good horse is because he finally released it, and he bucked, and then he self-punished. Did you see him? I mean, he was like beside himself, expecting me to do something about it. And all I said to him was, well, if that's the only way that you could get out of your pressure, and that's the only way that you could like move your feet, okay, it's not desirable. But I'm also like, what's there to punish? You were trying desperately to get out of pressure. How does he know that that's wrong? In his mind, he's like, well, I fixed it. That's why we don't ride them yet. But then you could see him going, oh my God. And then he looked at me and I was like, I don't understand why we're upset. And then he was like, wait, what? Well, how else would you handle it? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, I was like, well, that's kind of clever. He couldn't figure it out. We were watching his neck. He was doing this. And he was like, nope, that's not going to do it. And then he's like, she keeps coming at me with these little waves of like pressure. So she's like asking me to like raise it up a little bit. And it's not in my neck and it's not in my shoulder and it's not in my quicker steps. Okay. And then he just was like, I got to let this out. Okay. No problem. Hopefully, we'll be able to continue doing this kind of stuff and teach him that it's, because, right, we agree it was in his shoulder, right? He was stuck behind, but he made the theory correct in the fact that I said to you, rearing is literally halting, it's just standing, right? So he literally unstuck his legs. That's all he did. It just happened to be in a way that if somebody would perceive that and be like, I probably would have gotten bucked off by then, right? That's where then the rider starts to lose the confidence and all that stuff. But we shouldn't even have to go there because we're not on it. And if you're an idiot to get on it, well, I guess you should fall off. That's just my thought, right? Because I'm not getting on something that doesn't have 6 non-negotiables and is like, yep, I know it. I'm not holding anything in, or, right, I don't have to wait for perfect. So we'll use Lily's mare. She has a little bit of like anxiety in the right lead canter, picking it up into the right lead canter. But otherwise, she's pretty good. Like she's like, yeah, I feel really good. I can walk and trot. I can spiral in. I can spiral out. I can like move my hind legs. I'm not, like everything seems, she can have bigger steps, smaller steps, like all that there. So I said to Lily, so then you would get on this and you would do anything, you would do what she's comfortable with. Like I just gave this mare a preview of what I'm going to ask you. So here's the answers to the test. It would be unfair if I saw tension on the ground in that right lead canter and then to go after it and then be upset that she unseated me. Then I'm like, well, that's just why humans just get so, it's about me. Right? And I think that's where people get into trouble. Right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
This is totally fixable. Totally fixable. And it's not going to take long. I promise.
Yep. So you see why I never was willing to canter him.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And he's a good boy of like, you should not ask that question. But like I came at him and I was like, okay, why? Right? And so like we went and we're just gonna keep talking about it. So like I went back and instead of like I just kept working on that transition because it's his anxiety is not the actual canter. His anxiety is the and then he's like, ah, right? So like I went back and I was like with the walk trot, it was like little pressures till he's like, oh, I can get that. That's no problem. And then it's like a little bit bigger pressure till he learns that he can come up into it and come back down. 1 stride, 2 strides, 3 strides. As soon as he figures that out, you're not going to have problems anymore. He's figured out if I do this, this is how I can get through this. Right? So, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for being smart enough to feel what was going on and to not go there.
It's called survival.
And it is a skill that not all humans have. But I think it comes, we're in the dawn of a new era of ride them through it is just stupid. And it doesn't do anything for anything but just make everybody anxious, and then the horse goes down the road because somebody's scared and all that stuff. It's just old. You only know what you know, right? So thankfully we're in a place now that we have a lot more tools, a lot more education, a lot more humans are working on a lot more, right? Like this is Brene Brown stuff just in horses. Oh, you don't like to be vulnerable? You don't know Brene Brown? What? Ladies. Oh, I'm so excited to introduce her. She's the best. I will give you. I'll give you guys some starter stuff. Like she's amazing. She talks about. She's a shame researcher. So it's
Shame.
shame.
Hmm.
She's a shame researcher, and she figured out like all this stuff of just human psychology, and it makes so much sense, and then it makes so much sense when it comes to this. Like the similarities are like amazing. So I'll send you guys stuff. I'll bombard you with Brene Brown. This is not
Lola.
seriously, Sandy. This is not a big deal. He's incredibly smart, and I don't feel for a second that he doesn't want to be in here. We just have to. We're just gonna handhold him for a little bit.